right, welcome everybody. Today's Tesla Today, and because it's Friday, we have Brian White with us. Brian is the host of his own YouTube channel, MyTeslaWeekend. You got to check him out. And today, this weekend, it's quite interesting, right? Of course, we have some big events that are happening for Tesla. So first of all, we're going to talk about the Q1 numbers are coming out. We're also going to discuss this secret product or something that Tesla China is going to be revealing. Elon is visiting China, and we have some interesting kind of early views of what's happening in Tesla China regarding the cars for Q2 that might happen. So how you doing, Brian? How's everything?
Oh, doing great. What a fun quarter it has been. And I'm not even
All right.
just joking. It's been exciting.
Let's get started. Okay, well, all right, Brian, let's get going. Do you know what today is, right? I guess you know this, but I don't know if everybody knows this. So today, 7 years ago, this is when the Model 3 was unveiled, and it was unveiled more than, I was at that point, 115,000 people placed the reservation, and after the unveiling, 325,000 in 1 week. That was what happened a year ago. What do you think, Brian?
Boy, I tell you, it was a different time, wasn't it? You know, people lined up at stores like Apple stores practically to get their reservations in. It was interesting. And looking back, 325,000 seems quaint. It seems adorable. And a lot of people looked at those numbers and said, well, 325, once they sell those, they won't be able to sell anymore. And they
That's
probably
right.
won't
That's
even
right.
be able to, all of those aren't going to convert. You'll see. And yes,
Let-
the rest is history.
Let's take a look at a quick 40-second of video of what actually happened that day of unveiling.
All right. So what do you think? You like the car? Been good? All right, let's bring him out.
All right, so that was 7 years ago today. That's a long time. That's a long time. What do you think?
Exciting. It's still exciting. Apart from the fact that that silver is gorgeous, you got to admit the final production vehicle looks just as good, a little different, but every bit as good. And in ways I like the actual production model a little better. In some ways I like that one a little better because it's a little different than what I was expecting. But it's neat to see that Tesla, when they make a prototype, that's what the car is actually going to look like. The changes are very subtle. A lot of manufacturers do not do that. They show beautiful, beautiful prototypes and then just make a bar of soap.
Yeah. Well, it's been very, very successful. I guess the question I've been asking people, maybe you can answer that for me, Brian. Why did the Model Y become the #1 best-selling car in the world, and Model 3 didn't become the mass market sales compared to Model Y? Did Tesla make a kind of a mistake in pricing and kind of separating out the segments a bit?
Maybe. The real answer is crossover SUVs are just a more popular form factor. They're more versatile. They're more, you can get more done with it. You don't have to, compromise on anything. You can still get the performance and the handling and the economy, but with enough space. When we were in Texas, after Investor Day, we drove down to Brownsville to see Starbase. And it was 4 fully grown dudes with all of our luggage and camera gear for 2 photographers. And we all fit. All of us plus all of our bags fit comfortably in a Model Y, and you cannot do that in a mid-size sedan. If they were to revamp the Model 3 using Model Y philosophy, the Highland project, and drop the price by 8,000, 10,000, it might sell more, but the form factor alone is the reason it's such a runaway success.
Okay. That's interesting you say that, because I've been thinking that they're going to need to reduce the price of the Model 3, further differentiate the segments, and then the Model 3 will then start to skyrocket in sales. But you're thinking that it's not just that, it's the form factor. Maybe in the US, but you know what I mean? Like I don't know. The Model 3 has to have a mass. It has to be much bigger than it is. Not that it's it's obviously very successful. I'm just compared to the Model Y, right?
Well, the other problem is you've got 4 factories making Model Ys and only 2 making Model 3s. So unless you're going to get vastly more volume out of those 2 factories, you'd need a third factory, which, I mean, maybe they could add to Berlin, but I think they're onwards and upwards at this point, and they're happy to sell, an awful lot of 3s worldwide without it being, the Model 3 of all cars of all types in China, the Model 3 is number 10, which is pretty big. And you look at number 2 on the list is the Wuling Mini, which is a $5,000 car. And number 1 on the list is the Model Y, which has more profit per unit than the Wuling Mini costs.
Yeah, I think you just convinced me. Okay, now I'm going to change my position on this, which is Model Y. Of course, I'm going to focus on that, and then why they'll tinker with the Model 3, but really it's on and upwards to the compact car. Get that out, and then you've basically going to win those 2 segments in the Model 3. Great. Yeah, okay. Like you said, why change a factory to increase for Model 3 when you've got the Model Y, and then you're going to get this new compact car?
Right.
Okay. Love it. All right, let's keep going. So this weekend on Sunday, we're going to finally get the production and delivery numbers for Tesla. We've all been very excited about this. We know that it's going to be a record quarter. So Gary Black's tweeted out this morning that when you compile all of the investor relations median estimates, their median consensus is 421,000 cars delivered, and Gary's is at 424. And then look at the full year, they're thinking 1.8 million, which is pretty well on target with guidance. And theirs, Gary's is just a little bit more at 1.870. And so the kind of folks that they looked at are, these ones here, it's basically Bank of America, Citibank, Bernstein, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, right, Wedbush. So if you look at this table, it says here that this is the first quarter of 2023, and these are the medians, right? I think this is the medians, or the medians down here anyway. So I think that's the average maybe, and this is the median down here. So 420, and you can see the breakdown between the models. And then 2023, it's 1.83 million. And then they went ahead and showed you what they think is going to happen in the next several years, which is such a slow ramp up. It's hilarious, but okay. Yeah. What was your thought when you saw this?
So it's fun when you see someone that close to the average. I would like to see how he puts his numbers together. The unique thing that YouTubers and Twitter personalities love to do is show our math. And these guys don't show the math. They throw a dart at a dartboard. And I think when you say, oh, it's going to, I'm just a hair, he's playing the over. He took the over.
Yeah.
And when you see somebody who's a genuine outlier, someone who's quite a bit off the numbers, which mine are, that's when it's important for me to show my math, because if I am wrong, and all prediction is wrong, if I'm wrong, I've got to at least let you see what I'm doing so you can understand how I'm wrong. But I think those numbers are low. The other thing that's important to point out is those are deliveries, not production. And I track production because it's what I'm good at. There are metrics beyond my scope for deliveries that are unpredictable. And production, eventually the 2 numbers will more or less coalesce, but until they do, I'm only covering production. Right, so my number will be higher.
Yeah, let's take a look at yours. You tweeted this out yesterday. You said, I'm an outlier. I'll explain it all on a Friday live stream. So folks, later on today at 7 p.m. Pacific, he's going to be doing a deep dive on his the way that he's calculated these production numbers, as he mentioned. And I'll tell you, Brian is one of the best. He follows, he tracks, he knows these gigafactories, he knows his production better than most, actually. One of the top for sure. And his estimates have always been very, very good and very close to the best out there. So you got to take a look at how he does this. All right. So you're saying that you are estimating the production at 444,000. The analysts throw darts and refuse to show their math. You can see by it. Make your own determinations. Let's take a look at yours. Let's see what you said here. So you break it down by not by factory and by make, which is beautiful. Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Here's your Q1 numbers, production. So that's nice to see the progression. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'll walk you through it if I may.
Yes.
That Fremont number, Fremont is always at the peak. It is always at the highest. It can go no higher, and yet it always goes a little higher. So the difference between Q4 and Q1 is Q4 had Thanksgiving and Christmas in it, while Q1 only had New Year's Day, which isn't really super celebrated in terms of factory shutdowns. Then you've got the big benefit. Tom Ju has come over, and we saw already from December, he's streamlining stuff. He's cleaning it up. He's getting more productivity per worker per hour. That's why I'm so confident Fremont will have a small bump. On the SNX, we've begun exporting to new markets. I think that will drive some unit sales. 25,000 might be a tad optimistic, but we shall see. And then Shanghai, we already know it's record. The question is by how much. We know that Chinese domestic sales are at an all-time high for a quarter with days left to go. And we know they've still been exporting to Europe. We've seen the deliveries. We've seen them being shipped elsewhere in the Asian Pacific region. So that number, and to think Shanghai wouldn't be a record quarter after quarter after quarter is crazy. And then Berlin, we know they've got to a run rate of 5,000 a week. And I had someone on Twitter ask me, well, if they're at 5,000 a week, surely that 30,000 is low. That's a 5,000 a week burst rate. That doesn't mean they were sustaining it. It doesn't show all the valleys in between that got to those highs. If you look at the ramps in other factories, that seems consistent. It might be a little low. And the same with Texas. We know they're past 4,000 a week. We don't know where they're at. So really for production, 444, 489. I was going to go 444, 420 or 444, 469 for the mean value, but I figured, those numbers are implied anyway. If one of those hits, I'm still going to take it. I'm going to count it.
But, what do you mean one of those hits? What do you mean?
Oh, if it comes out to 444, 420 or 469, I count that as a win. Because of course you get to round those. Those are wild cards. You take them when they land.
Okay, so this is fantastic. Why do you not have any semis?
Because my source who would know if new semis have been delivered has not responded to my questions. I've reached out to him and I have not heard back, which leads me to believe, and we haven't seen any evidence of new deliveries. If I'm wrong on this, I'm only wrong by probably 20 to 30.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And I stick with what I can see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, love the way that you broke that down. That was very, very clear of how you decide and how you make these decisions of how you choose these numbers. So you clearly are not just, throwing darts or just guessing, but you are saying 444,000 is the production. How do you see the deliveries and how do you see the two kind of, are we going to see a huge gap? Or are we going to see kind of a small gap? I mean, you do track the inventory and how that's being delivered too, right?
Sure, I do. So the delivery wave is being unwound, which is a bit misleading. There's still delivery waves. They're just not as intense as they used to be. We are seeing, I don't remember if it's Sweden, there's somewhere in Europe where there's a delivery event taking place on today, where the ship arrived at 11 a.m. and at 4 p.m. there's a delivery event. Come down, sign and drive, get your car. Let's get them moved. Because they are still trying to blow them out at the end of the quarter. So in terms of the gap between delivery and production, that I expect to see it continue to widen, because 7 days of inventory on 1 million cars versus 7 days of inventory on 2 million cars, twice as much. So we may still see, but there are quarters where inventory is drawn down. This could be one, but I haven't seen anything to indicate it would. So I think the number of unsold units from last quarter will slightly increase this quarter, assuming no breakthroughs in logistics. We haven't seen any significant delays in shipping that would lead us to believe there's problems. China sales are still quite good, so everything looks to be on track. So there'll be, in my view, a small widening of unsold inventory.
Give me a number, buddy. Give me a number. So 444 is your production. 420 is deliveries. What's your delivery?
So, again, I don't do deliveries, but for you, Herbert, I will do deliveries. I'd say between 425 and 430. I'm taking the over by a lot more than those clowns. And actually,
for sure.
you saw the deviation on the chart was only 16,000. So that suggests the highest sort of normal delivery anyone's expecting is 436. I'd say 430 is my delivery guess.
Okay, that was my guess too, by the way. But okay, I thought maybe you'd go a little higher than that, but very nice. You are a little which is the great news is the investment analysts are actually very low, which is good, 420. We're happy that they chose that number. But amongst the other Tesla bulls, you're actually kind of...
What are they at?
You're right. I think Emmett's at 440, Alexandra's 437. So you're kind of there, but I've seen others who think it's going to be bigger. But I like your analysis. Thank you.
There's always somebody out there throwing out big numbers. And of the people that you mentioned and the others that are all high profile, they all have a basis. They are not throwing darts. Their basis may be off. They may be overly optimistic. I have been overly optimistic in quarters where I was wrong. But the beauty is we're all coming, unlike Wall Street, who all herd together into this tight little pack so that win or lose, they're all wrong together. Yeah. You'll notice that we are all doing our own analysis. We all have different ways of doing it. We all come up with quite different numbers. And I think that's way more valuable than what the Wall Street clowns are doing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so another thing that's happening this weekend is, so first of all, there's rumors that Elon is going to be flying to China to meet with the premier. I don't know if that's, I guess that's good news. It could go either way, right? But it's such a rumor right at this point, right?
I see it as no news. If Elon flies to Berlin, it's not really news. The surprising thing to me, the thing that shows you what a valuable asset Tom Zhu has been in Shanghai is that during the years of lockdown, Elon and the executive team were not able to go to that factory for a long time. I think Elon's only been there once or twice now since 2019, 2020, since 2020. And things run well. I don't think this is any particular news. I think he's checking in. I think he's making sure everyone's on the same page. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the other news is Tesla China came out with this, and they said that there's this kind of a teaser. I know you guys can't see this because I can't even see it, but basically there's this cyber vault, and then there's this something is covered in black curtain or black thing here, and at the top it says who's the main character this time, and the bottom it says special form superpower up, and they're going to reveal it in 3 days. So the fact that they call this a cyber vault, is it got anything to do with the cyber van? Is this a supercharger? Is this a mega pack? We just heard that Shanghai is going to be expanding to include mega pack, right? So what's your analysis of this?
It's a box under a sheet. So I would guess it's some kind of, it's not the shape of a vehicle is my guess. And I wouldn't call a vehicle a vault. So I think it's a battery based on the term and the form factor. But why call it a main character? That's interesting. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I assume it's a cultural in reference that I don't understand.
Correct. Yeah. Something like that.
But yeah,
it could be just translation,
Yeah.
Like, the main event, this 3 days from now, it could have been just like that.
That could be. Sure. And it'll be, I'm sure it'll be something stupidly profitable once again. But what?
Sure.
But what? I don't know.
Power pack. Yeah. It looks like a box. Who knows what it is, but cyber vault, and why cyber? Why cyber? Why cyber?
Yeah. That part is confusing. Unless it's just their new design aesthetic, which is what they're going to be doing with
Okay.
a lot of things.
So this weekend also, or just a few days ago, what's her name?
Tasha Keeney.
Tasha Keeney, with a part of ARK Invest, was interviewed by CNBC, and she shared some information and graphics about how, how many cars are collecting autonomous data today. And she showed that Tesla is at 2.7 million and Xiaopeng is at 270,000, and everyone is like less than 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think that 2.7 might be low because you don't have to have the autonomous suite in order for it to collect data and calculate what it would have done in shadow mode. I think that number is probably off by hundreds of thousands. Of the 4 million cars sold, of the 4 million cars sold, it's probably only a few 100,000 that don't have sufficient sensors to collect the data. So the question to me isn't, does Tesla have enough data? The question is, do they have the ability to analyze that data in a meaningful way? And between the breathtaking GPU cluster they're using and Dojo coming online, I believe no one's in a better position to process that data, except maybe like a Google or Amazon. But I don't know that, but they don't have the data. So they have the processing power, but not the data. I did want to draw your attention. Raymond Chen in the chat did a literal translation for us on the Cyber Vault. The last phrase is super add electricity. I think there's your answer. It's a storage. It's a battery pack of some kind. Powerwall, medium pack, maybe. What do you think?
Can't it be a supercharger?
Oh yeah. Super add electricity. Yeah, it could be that. Oh,
Ask
you know
Raymond.
what?
What do you think it is?
Raymond. The shape. Look at the shape. It looks like the V4 charger, doesn't it?
All right. Well, let's keep moving forward. Okay. So it's probably
is.
small. Okay. So another big news, of course, or not big news, I guess, but interesting. We're already looking at, we just looked at Q1. We're looking forward to Q2. People are taking photos of Giga factory in China. And of course, you do this as well. So this is the deliveries. It looks like here's all the cars. Tell me what I'm looking at here, Brian.
So these are almost entirely Model 3s being sent out from Shanghai. This is what we're talking about with the inventory buildup. The last week, we can't deliver these locally. There's not enough time to get them. The Chinese market, despite being a country, China is very large geographically. So these are thrown on ships to be sent out to other countries. This is part of the inventory buildup. And it's just a sea of beautiful, beautiful vehicles. And each ship holds, depending on the ship, 5,000 cars. So it doesn't take very many ships to equal 15, 20,000 cars worth of inventory in transit. So
okay. So this is an example of deliveries that has already been sold, but not yet counted. Is that what you're saying? Because
these are production models that have not yet been delivered, that will not count as deliveries. Yep.
Okay. Is this a lot more than usual? Is this like, why are we taking photos? Is this what it looked like every quarter or? Yeah.
Yes. At least for the last few quarters, they've been doing deliveries like this right at the end. We're taking photos because this is from Wuwa's channel, and that's what he does. He covers the factory, he covers the port, he covers the CATL factory construction nearby. And sometimes he finds other gems like lots where they're parking cars temporarily, or the factory where they build the superchargers at. There's a whole separate factory there that builds superchargers. So he covered it because that's what he does.
Nice. Thank you. See, you know a lot. Okay. Another bit of news is New York Times reported that California is going to now require 50% of all heavy trucks sold by 2035 to be electric. So we already know that they have rules for the electric vehicles, but this is specifically for heavy trucks. Also, 50% needs to be electric. So who's the competitors to Semi?
Oh, everybody. Kenworth has electric trucks. Volvo, BYD, Freightliner, Cascadia, Nikola, Mack, everybody who makes big trucks makes electric. And I got to talk with a guy who works for a company that makes the powertrains that go into the Bluebird school buses and other things, but that was their big customer at the time. Everybody who makes big vehicles is going gangbusters trying to electrify, and it is absolutely happening. And these targets, one person pointed out, there won't be enough trucks to do it. And what happens with the trucks from out of state? And the answer is, you ever seen truck plates that instead of listing the state they're from, just say apportioned? Those are interesting plates. They literally use the log of miles and pay road taxes based on where people actually drive. Trucks from out of state would still presumably be allowed on the roads just fine. It's just for all the local and in-state operations, and that would be enough to clean up the air substantially. So there's the target is not unrealistic. The problem today is that those trucks are still very expensive because batteries are expensive and you need like a megawatt to have an effective truck. So that's the obstacle
these questions
at this time.
Brian's saying, how will they regulate the 50%? He's also asking, is that just a target or a wish? I think it's a real
target, and I assume they would regulate it at the per manufacturer at the point of sale. So just like how they set the rules that for cars sold within the state, they had to hit certain gas mileage ratios. I imagine they would track it in the same way. Volvo wants to sell 5,000 trucks this year. Half of them have to be electric. Because I don't think one manufacturer could be all electric. Well, maybe they could be selling credits. I don't know. I haven't seen any proposal to put something like that in place. I think each manufacturer would have to hit 50%.
You know this answer? Daniel's asking, is the Semi using 48 volt?
I do not know, but I can find out. I might be able to find out. Yeah, I don't know. All
right. So in another bit of important news regulatory-wise, so we finally heard from the IRS saying that they are going to be updating the much more clear about what the IRS credit covers or not. And there's rumors now that the Model 3 rear-wheel drive, because it has the China-made LFPs, it's going to be reduced or taken away, the tax credit, but they postponed it to April 18th.
So silly. Just give us clear guidance, guys. The problem was the way it was interpreted in January made it so that they would be giving away trillions of dollars in car credits. And the way they're interpreting it on April 18th makes it so that they're going to give away zeros of dollars. So we got to find a middle ground, guys, because no battery is going to be 100% domestically sourced, manufactured, and assembled today. That's crazy. It's all about a transition. There has to be a period of transition. And if we want EVs out, give a partial credit. Give half. Forget the battery credit. But no, nope. It's all or none, baby. And it's crazy.
Do you expect Tesla going to create Model 3s now that is not LFP made from China minerals? What's their response, you think, to this?
I don't know, because putting the Nevada batteries in a Model 3 would make it significantly more expensive, but cheaper to the consumer than building one with LFP. So it would create this perverse incentive where a more expensive car is now cheaper. And it's, a good part of the transition is, while we're using every battery we can make, still buying other batteries to continue the transition. So I've said this every time the IRS question comes up. I don't know what they're doing, and I don't think they do either.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, what do you think? You excited about what we're expecting here? Do you think that Q1 earnings, do you have any analysis at all in terms of the margins? I mean, do you think that in earnings this quarter, that because you do follow the progress of Q1, the scaling of Berlin and Texas and the 4680s, have they scaled enough in the last quarter or two that they could actually kind of offset at least some of the price cuts that happened in January, do you think? Or What's your guess on this?
So on the 4680s, not enough information to know. That is probably still losing money. But for Texas and Berlin, they're absolutely improving margins through sheer economy of scale. The parts crunch has gotten better. That's improving margins. Berlin, if you look at the flyover footage, you'll see a lot of those beautiful new silver ones that are $3,000 more. So add another 8% margin to 10% of the cars. You got another whole percent of margin there just out of Berlin. I think the margins are going to be still very strong. And this quarter, we're finally going to be seeing some decent megapack numbers because the volume of megapacks going out the door is vastly higher. The cost to manufacture them is lower because of the assembly line, and the retail cost of them is more than double what it was when they first came out, despite them costing less to build. So I think I think the margins this quarter are going to be just fine. But yeah, we've got some excitement. Tonight, I'm doing my live stream where I go into much greater depth on what these numbers were. Tomorrow, I've got a very exciting live stream. I don't want to spoil it, but it's all about Elon's actual step-by-step plan to take over the world.
Wow.
And that one, I've been working on it for over a year. It's such a good one. Tomorrow live, it's going to be bonkers. And then on Sunday, we get the actual numbers. I'll be doing another live hangout for that, where we sit there and just answer questions and go through everything, waiting for the numbers, and then hopefully get very happy. So we shall see. And then, yeah. And then next, yeah. And then we get.
And then when I look forward beyond Q1 and look at the margins again, I saw this one graph, and tell me if it looks right, that the efficiency of these, the production efficiency of Giga Berlin, for example, they just announced, right, that they hit 5,000 cars per week. I saw this graph that said by September, it should be at 10,000. What's your expectation of the growth? Like, isn't it slow at the beginning and then all of a sudden it starts getting faster and faster over the rest of the year?
Yeah, that's, I was asked on Twitter by someone to go back and look and see how the Shanghai ramp and the Berlin ramp compare. And I found that they tracked exactly. When Berlin ramps, it will ramp, I believe, as it has, at the same pace as Shanghai, but its top will be higher than Shanghai's was because Berlin is a much bigger, newer factory. So yeah, I would not be surprised if we hit 10,000 a week by September. And remember, 5,000 a week, that is higher than Tesla's global production rate in 2018 from one factory that's still ramping.
Now, why is Texas taking, like, I thought that they were going to be lockstep with each other. Why are they a little bit behind, which is weird? Because it's supposed to be Texas, Berlin, right? Things are moving faster there.
So Texas is about 35% bigger than Berlin. So it took longer to build. Berlin did break ground 3.5 months earlier, but they did have a prolonged shutdown in there that slowed them down. So just those two factors alone, the bigger the factory is part of it, and the slower and the later start. Also, Texas had vastly more groundwork to do, land reclamation, grading. They had hills to knock down and valleys to fill, which took months and months to do. And that's a big, big part of it. Where in Berlin, they just had to mine sweep and then clear the trees. And they did have to mine sweep, and they did find unexploded ordnance from World War II.
Yeah, okay, no, but that doesn't explain the 5,000 cars per week. How come they haven't got there? We all went to the Gigafactory, Texas, last year in April.
I don't know. I don't think they're behind schedule. I think this is on their schedule. Otherwise, we would see an abundance of parts waiting to be used. I think this is on their pace. I think this is the pace that they were anticipating.
Okay. Now, Gigafactory Mexico, I heard that they recently changed their name to Gigafactory Nuevo Leon. I want to know what you think, and then maybe you can take a guess if you are expecting them to actually announce a groundbreaking sooner than the 3 months that normally takes.
So I'd never heard Giga Mexico as the official title. That's just what all of us called it. Yes. And Giga Nuevo Leon means, so they go with the most common name, the most local accepted common name. So that's why it's Berlin and not Germany, is because people know where Berlin is. And it's Texas. But the reason is, I think there's going to be more factories in Mexico, and we need to differentiate. That's the answer. And the other question is groundbreaking. No, I think if they said 3 months, it's 3 months because they've got to finalize the blueprint, the design, and it's something of this scale. You can work all the hours you want. It takes a lot of hours to get it finished.
Boo. That's the opposite answer of other people, but you're always like that. You're always very careful. You don't want to overstep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I like the concept of another gigafactory in Mexico, because we did hear, right? Why there was delayed a bit was each of these states in Mexico were vying for each other. So why couldn't have they said eventually, well, we'll probably have a second one. We'll start this one and we'll announce something next year or something that, or 2 years from now. Who knows? Yeah. Depends.
Yeah. Because I don't know. There's a lot of diplomacy that goes into these, and I don't know what the best, most diplomatic way is. So yeah, it's tough to say. But
why haven't we heard about Indonesia and Canada?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough to say. I don't know. There's because it's not time. But we will.
Yeah, I guess they have to decide what kind of cars they're going to make.
And I wouldn't be surprised if, unlike in Berlin and Texas, where it's 2 different factories, I wouldn't be surprised if this is 2 of the same factory, where it's one design in 2 locations, where they use the same blueprint twice.
Yeah. I think we heard the Tom Drew say something like that, right? Now that we decided to wait till the next factory instead of stopping the lines of current factories. Now that we've got a design of the new unboxing process, we're going to redesign this. Once we've got this, we're going to replicate this factory everywhere. That's kind of what I heard. Yeah.
Yep. Is that it's going to be perfected and then rolled back to other factories from there, which goes against the idea of making 2 at once. But they also said that was something they were looking at doing. So we'll see.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, everybody. You got to watch his video tonight, a live stream tonight at 7 p.m. He's going to go through the Q1 numbers even more detailed, and then he's going to have a big show tomorrow. And then, of course, Sunday, there's going to be the actual numbers. Thank you, everybody. Come visit us every Friday for Brian. See you later.
Thanks, Herbert.